These diverse actors all share in our objective of strengthening the role of local and regional governments in the development of our continent, as well as accelerating the integration and unity of Africa by creating linkages between nations and cities on our continent. So on behalf of the people of Kenya, I am particularly grateful to the leadership of the United Cities and local governments of Africa for choosing Kisumu as a host city for this year's Africities Summit, the first such intermediary city to host such a conference. For centuries, this particular intermediary city of Kisumu has been a melting pot of different cultures, a hub for trade, and a gateway into Eastern and Central Africa. And so in this context, I do invite you all to join in this continental moment of taking stock and reflecting, learning, as well as planning under this year's theme of the role of intermediary cities of Africa in the implementation of our Agenda 2030 of the United Nations and our very own African Union Agenda 2063. This year's summit is most apt as the summit comes at a time that is critical when our continent of Africa is facing rapid urbanization and the challenges of future cities are increasingly coming into sharp focus, more so after the shocks of the COVID-19 pandemic. Cities and local authorities around the world have played a key role in the response to COVID-19. They were our first line of defense. They were at the forefront of our prevention and containment measures, the vanguard of our humanitarian response, as well as taking the first steps towards building back livelihoods post-COVID. Local authorities therefore proved to be an indispensable ring in the governance chain and an instrumental part of pandemic prevention and response actions. Consequently, time is ripe for scaling up the role of intermediary cities as the next frontiers of African urbanization and development. I say this because in Africa, an unprecedented rate of urbanization has propelled intermediary cities to stand at approximately 1,086. Intermediary cities like Kisumu, where we are today, are home to approximately 174 million people, representing about 36% of our continent's total urban population and contributing about 40% of our continent's GDP. So as we convene to deliberate on how we can establish a shift towards a new urban paradigm and unleash the potential of intermediary cities in fostering inclusive development and the realization of our SDGs and all other social economic development initiatives, we must keep in mind that Africa is becoming increasingly urbanized. The traditional rural focus within development plans risk marginalizing a growing section of our population, one which will soon be the majority. This is not to say that our rural areas should take a back seat. Rather, it is to recognize that our development plans must be in tune with the realities of rural-urban migration and the concentration of large populations in small and often unplanned settlements in metropolitan areas. This calls for proper planning to create smart cities that meet future urbanization challenges, plans that address the emerging needs related to food security, health, shelter, environmental conservation, as well as infrastructure. The need for proper urban planning was clearly demonstrated during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, when it became necessary to support those living in informal settlements in our cities and urban areas with food rations, as well as the provision of sanitary facilities. So, ladies and gentlemen, the challenge of our time is therefore to make our intermediary cities and municipalities sustainable and fit for all our citizens. Accordingly, this summit has the task of providing the continent with a comprehensive and achievable roadmap on how our intermediary cities can contribute towards the implementation of the Agenda 2030 of the United Nations, as well as our own African Union Agenda 2063. Here in Kenya, for example, the national government has over the last 5 years been implementing projects and programs geared towards improvement of lives of our people through the achievement of the SDGs. This has been under the auspices of our National Economic Blueprint, our Kenya Vision 2030 and its medium-term plan, the Big Four, and the agenda espouses provision of a decent roof over many more heads at affordable costs, at affordable health care for all, value addition by increasing manufacturing and jobs, as well as ensuring food security for all our people. We have also embarked on a slum upgrade program that is spread across our country, notably in our capital city of Nairobi and the intermediary cities of Mombasa and Kisumu, as well as our youngest city, that being the city of Nakuru. These concerted actions have been through the Kenya Devolution Support Program, the Urban Support Program, the Kenya Slum Upgrade Program, and the Kenya Informal Settlement Improvements Program. So to achieve the goals of this convention, we must make this, the 9th edition of the Africities Summit, a questioning summit. And in that regard, I would like to propose a 12-point questioning framework for all participants. And this framework should guide us in understanding the problem and charting the way forward. Firstly, how do we reinvigorate the management of urbanization, the electricity feed, provide affordable and inclusive transport, provide high quality and accessible education and health care, and improve the standards of water and sanitation provision within our intermediary cities? Secondly, how do we accelerate the reduction of extreme poverty in our cities? Third, how can national and central governments support in mobilization of resources to unlock effective delivery of services by our intermediary cities? Fourth, how can we best develop human capital in the intermediary cities in the sectors of administration, planning, and governance with a view to sustaining the momentum so far gathered towards the achievement of our SDGs? Fifth, what is the best way for us to create and sustain conducive environments for the accelerated growth of decentralization and evolution across our continent without compromising our national cohesion? Sixth, how do we reposition technology and connectivity as a driver to the achievement of SDGs in providing opportunities in our urban areas? Seventh, how can we enhance the voice of key stakeholders, including civil society, the private sector, academia, grassroots organizations, in providing capacity and impetus in the implementation of our SDGs. 8, how do we increase awareness of the negative effects of climate change and guarantee environmental equity for future generations? 9, what legal and policy frameworks should we establish so as to foster the robust and sustainable development of intermediary cities? And 10, what incentives should we put in place to enhance the competitiveness of our intermediary cities as the new frontiers and hubs for innovation, trade, and tourism? 11, what critical steps can we put in place to enhance disaster management in our urban areas, including those that may deal with pandemics similar to COVID-19? And 12, as we scale up and develop our urban areas in general, and in particular our intermediary cities, what strategies and policies are required to confront the threats of radicalization and terrorism, especially in the urban areas, including our intermediary cities? So, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude my remarks, I would like to underscore that this must be a decade of action. The time is ripe for scaling up our efforts in support of intermediary cities and also in promoting greater synergies between local, national, and international efforts geared towards accelerating the realization of our SDGs. In every community and nation in Africa, there are sayings that recognize that in unity there is strength, and there is no challenge, no matter how seemingly insurmountable, can prevail over unified and united actions. I therefore urge all of you today to unite in the face of one of the greatest challenges of our time, that through concerted and synergetic actions, Africa's intermediary cities will play their rightful role in driving the implementation of Agenda 2030 and the African Union Agenda 2063. So, ladies and gentlemen, with those few remarks, it is indeed my great pleasure and honor to declare this 9th Africities Summit officially open, and I really look forward to the fruitful deliberations that I'm sure will take place here in this great city of Kisumu. Thank you, and God bless Africa. Thank you very much.